Hi, welcome back. This is COMM1160, week 8, video number 2. And in this video, we're going to talk about outlining. You're actually going to be preparing an outline. I'm going to give you that assignment next week. But you're actually going to be preparing an outline based on the information that you pulled for your research file. I wanted to talk about outlining with you so that we can talk about the structure of an outline and how to actually set one up. The first thing, though, that we need to talk about is what an outline actually is. And I will tell you, again, I'm always telling stories about my past, that when I first started doing writing at the post-secondary level, I thought that outlines were a complete waste of time. I wanted, I was like ready to get going. I wanted to just write the essay and get it over with and turn the assignment in. And I thought that this step was something that was just going to drag me down and make me waste time. I will tell you, I have completely changed my opinion after somebody who taught me, forced me to do outlines so that I was actually prepared to write the essay. And I will tell you that when I started doing outlines, I really noticed a huge difference in my writing and my ability to stay organized and stay on topic. So they're not a waste of time. If you're of the opinion that they are, I think you'll change your mind after you go through this process where I basically, like somebody did to me, I'm forcing you to do an outline for an essay. It's really important to think of the outline as operating like a skeleton. Okay, so it's the foundation on which you're actually going to build up an essay. If you think about the skeleton, right, your health sciences students, nursing students, if you think about the skeleton is what supports your whole body, right? So your organs and the fat that you have and the muscles that you have and the skin that you have, all of that is supported by the skeleton. If somebody sucked your skeleton out of the top of your head, you'd just be like a little pool of skin and fat on the floor, right? You wouldn't have any structure to your body. Same thing with an outline, okay? And just like a skeleton, an outline is something that you can't see outwardly. So in your final essay, right, you won't actually see your outline, but it is there like the skeleton, supporting all of the ideas that you've come up with. So just like we can't have a human body without a skeleton, we really can't have a good essay without an outline that supports it. There are various ways, okay, to do an outline. And the readings that I asked you to do, or the example that I've given you to do, shows you one way. Okay, but I did want to tell you that there are different ways of outlining. There's systems where you use numbers for different points, all sorts of different systems. You can take a look on the internet. All you would have to do is Google essay outline examples, and you'll see some different strategies that are out there. I use the one that I'm giving you the example of, but by no means am I telling you that this is what you have to do. I find it works nicely for me, but you may prefer a different kind of structure for your outline. No matter what structure you end up using, though, okay, your outline should be point form. So you're not actually writing the essay in full sentences or anything, but you're including a whole bunch of points, all of the information that you're going to include in an eventual essay, okay? Except for your thesis statement, your topic sentences, and what's called your closing remark. And I'll go over all of those different things, okay? But everything else is point form. The idea here is to build the foundation or to build the skeleton without actually writing the essay, so that you have an outline that contains the information that you're going to need, so that when you get to the writing stage, you don't have to worry about looking stuff up. You don't have to worry about digging for information. It's all going to be laid out for you there in point form, and you'll be able to concentrate just on the writing. Okay? So different parts to an outline, no matter which style you end up using, you're going to have sort of 3 parts to your outline. Okay. The first part you're going to do is your introduction. And all you need for your introduction is your working thesis statement written down. And if you took time after the last video to come up with a working thesis statement, you have it already. Okay, so you've already completed step 1 of your outline. You have a thesis statement that points out what you're going to discuss in the essay. The biggest part, okay, of any outline is when you're outlining the body. So for each body paragraph, for each category that you've identified, you're eventually going to have a body paragraph in your essay for that. What you want to do is come up with a topic sentence. And if you think back, I know Professor Amanda went over paragraphing and stuff with you earlier in the term. You think back to what makes a good topic sentence, right? It announces what the actual paragraph is going to be. And it can be really basic. It doesn't need to be anything complex. You'll see in the example that I give you, it's pretty basic. You also, as you're outlining your body, you want to include the detail that you're going to use in point form. So this is where you're flipping through all of your research and you're pulling the evidence, you're pulling the information. You want to do that in point form because if you simply copy down word for word exactly what you're reading in the research, you're going to have difficulty then coming up with ways to paraphrase. But if you put it in point form, and then you'll be writing from point form when you actually get to drafting the essay, you'll be able to paraphrase quite easily. Okay? It's also really important at this point to keep track of your in-text citations. So thinking back to APA, make sure that as you're writing down those bullet points from the different sources of research that you're using, that you include an in-text citation so that you don't have to go back later and try to track down where you got what idea from. Okay, so it just makes it simpler. It takes away a step later on. So keep track of that. I also recommend, okay, and this is just me as a friend recommending to you that you take a break after you outline each body paragraph. Okay, because I think it makes you fresher. So I, for example, would do a body paragraph, go and get a cup of coffee, have a snack, come back and sit down and do the next body paragraph. And again, you're going to be repeating this 3 to 4 times based on the number of categories that you've come up with through your thesis statement. And then finally, you need a little bit that you're going to be able to refer to when you're writing a conclusion to your essay. For your conclusion, when you're outlining, what you want to do is you want to come up with what I'm going to call your final thought, okay, written down. So a sentence, right, that you're going to use to close off your essay, to bring your essay to a complete stop. And this can be something, you know, that's philosophical in nature or that talks about the need for further study or something, you know, on this particular topic that you're working on. But it's some kind of concluding sentence, like a bow on the package, that's going to indicate to the reader this essay is done. I find if you come up with that statement at the outlining stage, it really gives you a sense of how you're going to be able to conclude stuff. And it makes the actual writing of the conclusion later on a lot easier. Okay, so that's sort of some general abstract stuff about an outline. What does an outline actually look like? Let's take a look at what I've given you under course documents. And under course documents, I'm just going to go into the file in Word here. Under course documents, I've given you an example of an outline that somebody wrote about a fake condition called Blah syndrome. Okay. And you'll see that what this person did, right, was move from the thesis statement into topic sentences. And you'll see that I've separated out by color again. Okay, I really like color. I find it works well. So here's the thesis statement. And you'll see it follows the same kind of strategy that your thesis statement does. Blah syndrome can be treated with a combination of A, physical interventions, B, psychological therapies, and C, self-care methods. So I then take that thesis statement and I break it down and I actually then create topic sentences for my different body parts. So I take the first one, physical interventions, and I come up with a really basic topic sentence there. Physical interventions are the gold standard in treating Blah syndrome. And notice too, I have my APA there, okay, because I'm showing where that information is coming from. And I repeat that process for each of the topic sentences that I'm going to write. Okay, makes it a lot easier. But then I'm going to go into creating, okay, my actual bullet pointed outline for each of the body paragraphs. Okay, this time I've changed it up a little bit. So here's our working thesis statement. Although Blah syndrome can manifest in a number of different ways, 3 key symptoms are present in every case. A, an intense craving for chocolate. B, the inability to get off the couch. And C, overconsumption of refined carbohydrates. So then I go into my paragraphs, okay, my body, and I come up, there's my topic sentence, right, that I've come up with from my thesis. An insatiable craving for chocolate is a universal symptom of blah. And then I go into my detail. Okay, this is my point form stuff that I pulled. So I've gone through all of my research and I've found everything that relates to the craving for chocolate being a symptom. And you can see from the APA, I'm getting this, okay, from different sources. It could be, depending on the topic and depending on what you found, that all of your information comes from one source. If so, that's okay. It may come from all your different sources that you've collected. If so, that's okay. But all I'm doing is I'm basically pulling that information from the research, phrasing it in my own words, right? And again, doing it with what they call telegraphic writing. So I'm not actually writing a full sentence. I'm just writing down points, just in point form. Okay. And I would repeat that for each planned body paragraph. So I'd sit down with each topic sentence and then rifle through. The process takes a while, right? I'm going to give you lots of time to do the outline. So I've got to rifle through all my research and find the detail, find the proof, or find the evidence that I'm eventually going to use in my essay. Okay. And again, depending on the number of categories that I've come up with, so the number of A, B, and C, again, I'm going to recommend that you pick 3 to 4, okay, so that you're not ending up with too long a paper. You sit down and you complete that for each particular paragraph. And like I said, take a break in between them, okay, because it's a lot of work. You're sitting down, you're rifling through, you're rereading some of your research. Take a break as you go through, okay, so that, again, you come back to each point fresh. Then, once I'm done all of that, I'm going to come up with my concluding statement. I'm also calling it a memorable statement because it's the thing that you want your reader to remember after you're finished. And I made kind of a little philosophical statement here. I've said, while Blah syndrome is a serious condition that Canadians must watch for, most patients with correct guidance and support from their healthcare team can manage their symptoms. Okay, so looking at this fake outline here that I'm giving you, you can see if I had done all of the paragraphs, I would basically have a full essay written just all in point form, right? So I've done all the heavy work. I've done all the heavy lifting by working through the outline this particular way. It is a lot of work. Okay, so I'm not going to try to fool you and say that this is something that you can do in 5 minutes. This is something that takes some time. You got to sit down with everything. You got to, like I said, rifle through and reread different portions of your research. But let me tell you, this pays off so much when it actually comes time to write the essay. You might even find if you end up with a really good outline, you eliminate writer's block. So you don't end up in a situation where you're sitting, staring at a screen, not knowing how to get started on an essay, right? There's nothing worse than that feeling. That's a horrible feeling. When you have an essay outline, you basically have all the work done. All you'll have to do eventually is just string it all into sentences. It really is an important step of the process. And like I said, if you don't buy that outlines are important, I am going to ask you to try this time to work through a really solid outline and see if your experience with writing doesn't really change when it comes time to actually do the draft. So the outline assignment is not going to be due until July the 18th. I'm just going to click, that's going to be a Sunday, and you're going to be submitting it by midnight. It's up to you whether you want to get started on it, but at least it gives you a weekend in between, okay, to get working on this particular outline. If you complete it early, I will put the instructions for submission up on Blackboard. If you complete it early, you can submit it early. I may not get to grading it early, okay, just to warn you. But if you want to get it done and get it out of the way, you can certainly work ahead if you want to. I have no problem with that. Next week, you're going to be working on your outline, so you're going to be completing it. So I'm going to be giving you some time, class time, as it were, to complete that outline, to work on it. And we're going to start talking about how to rough draft. So how to actually take that outline and turn it into a sort of first version of an essay. That'll be next week. Okay, so this week's a little bit light, I should say. If you want to, though, do go ahead, start working on your outline. You don't have to finish it until the 18th. Okay, and again, next week we're going to be talking about the rough drafting. So here is our first week coming to a close, our first week together. I am looking forward to meeting all of you in as much as we can meet on Blackboard, and getting to know each of you. I'm really looking forward to seeing your outlines and seeing what kind of information you've found about your various topics. As always, if you have any questions, we are going to have the chat. The 6th will be our mini orientation. Okay, so I wouldn't imagine that you'd have any questions by then, even though I'll put this recording up a little bit early. But certainly on the 13th, if you have any questions about thesis statements or about outlines, please drop into the course chat. I'll be there, okay, and able to answer any questions or anything that you have. Just make sure you've got your headset or your microphone or whatever all set up so that we can talk voice in the Black Room chat room. Okay, have a fantastic week. Thanks for putting in a lot of hard work this week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.